So I will let you do that, because it would be a lot more interesting and easier if you did that than if I read all of this verbiage, so.
Yeah, good evening. Essentially, there's 3 different amendments before you tonight. There's one relative to the parking restrictions for these different lots that were built through the rail trail. There's a second amendment that relates to overnight parking bans for the different parking lots. And then the last amendment relates to a modification of the no parking zones along Elm Street. What I have on this, up on the board tonight right now is, as part of the rail trail project, the contractor built a few different parking lots along the new Assabet River Rail Trail. These 2 parking lots are in close proximity to the train station. The upper one is where the rail trail comes out of the farm field and terminates right at about the Maple-Stowe Street intersection, and they constructed some rail trail parking spaces right along the edge of the rail trail there. And then the second lot that was constructed was built on the MBTA property on the corner of Main and Maple. It's right along the inbound train platform there. That one they recently completed and opened it up, so people are currently using that one. So what we're trying to do is working out some of the logistics of what these would be used for. As part of the rail trail project, the parking lot that runs along the rail trail was established for rail trail use only. They've put up signs just as rail trail parking, but it's very difficult for the police to enforce that without watching somebody go on the trail or not. What we wanted to try was institute a weekday 4-hour parking restriction between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, excluding weekends and holidays. It would allow the police to be able to monitor that and see if somebody parked there all day to jump on the train and try to keep those open. I believe on that lot there, they have 8 proposed parallel spaces and then 2 accessible spaces. So, like I said, we're proposing to have the 8 parallel spaces, set those as time-restricted parking spaces, and hopefully that will make it easier for them to enforce that. On the other lot that we have down on Maple Street, they constructed that and opened it. The training committee was meeting and discussing it, and they developed a carpool proposal they wanted to try out here. I think partly its proximity to the inbound platform. Part of the rail trail project, they built a new access walkway right up under the platform, and they wanted to see if they could possibly incentivize commuters to carpool with the proximity to here, and also with the fee that would be established for it, to see if they can get more people together and free up some spacing in the area. The proposal itself would require an application for somebody similar to Jones Field. They would apply for a parking space, and they would have a dedicated space they could use. On the application, you would need a minimum of 3 adults to apply to use it. To actually park there, at least 2 out of the 3 people would have to be present to park in the space and use it. We established the timing similar to Jones Field, so that the people that get these spaces, it would be reserved for them during the week from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We matched the timing for Jones Field, so it was the time of operation. Enforcement is easier for the police to know. It's consistent throughout Jones Field and that. As far as the rate on it, Jones Field is established at $100 a month, and that's roughly equivalent to the commuter parking at the train station every day and paying the parking meter for a month. At this lot, to try to help incentivize use, they've proposed that instead of $100 a month, you do $75 a month and see if they could get more interest with it. So we're looking at that. In addition to the carpool program for that lot, it was built by the contractor for the rail trail, so we wanted to retain some spaces to be open for rail trail use in that. So we're proposing to keep 4 spaces in the lot. The same as the other lot. It's 4-hour parking, so it would be open to users during the week to come and use it. The lot itself on weekends would be open just like any other lot. Then it can be full use for the rail trail or whatever people are doing in the area. We've also in the amendment, I know in the past in dealing with Jonesfield parking and sort of chasing people for payment and that, we've instituted some mechanisms to try to help with that as far as finance is going to be taking over this. So it's, we instituted a late fee if they're beyond the due date. And some other issues that we've heard is commuters parking in around the neighborhood causing problems for the neighbors. So we had an instance of, say, only one commuter from the carpool program showed up to park. You need at least two, so they have to park somewhere else. So if they start illegally parking somewhere around the neighborhood and they accumulate sort of 3 tickets doing that, that you could potentially lose your parking privilege. So trying to help institute this, but also help try to mitigate what might be happening in the neighborhood to resolve some of that issues. And then we have the standard language about the town's not responsible for damage to vehicles, ticket or towing if you're not parked properly. And there's the lot, when they proposed it, I believe they had some additional spaces shown down here, but when they actually constructed it, I think they realized that they didn't have enough space for a car to maneuver out with the way the angle of the wall and the lights were. So I think they lost about 3 spaces back here. But we've found in the last few storms that when people do park here, we're not able to clear the lot. So it's beneficial for us to not have those there anyway, so we can push the snow off. For both of these lots in the amendments, we're also proposing a winter overnight parking ban. So during the storms, that similar thing, you can't park overnight, or at least 1 hour while you're doing something, get your car out of the way. We've instituted it around on Railroad Street this year and the School Street parking. We did it a number of years ago in West Acton, and it has really helped to move the cars out of the way so they can clear it properly and get it back open. So we wanted to do it on both of these lots as well, so we had that chance to maintain these in a timely manner. The third lot that I have on tonight is at the end of Sylvia Street. They built a small rail trail park in here. I thought I had a plan to show, but I forget what's the one today. I couldn't find the older one, but they have a series of wood fences around it, and it's kind of narrow. So one of my main concern here is if someone similar to like Railroad Street left their car here and we had to come and plow the street, they typically, as they're plowing, they end up pushing some down the end. If there's a car there, we won't be able to properly plow Sylvia Street. So we're proposing to put an overnight parking ban here as well in that lot, just to try to help keep that open and allow us to maintain the street during the storms. The last amendment that we have is over on Elm Street. Been working with the police department relative to parking issues with the pickup drop-off for the schools. There's currently a no parking zone on the Agawam side that runs from Agawam up to about the tennis courts. And then the existing no parking zone on this side starts about the modular buildings and then runs to the tennis courts. The police have been talking with the schools and trying to work out the logistics. So one thing we wanted to propose was putting a no parking restriction along the sidewalk in front of the parking area there to stop people from blocking the sidewalk, but also kind of clear up that area where people are maneuvering in on the intersection. And as part of it, we wanted to eliminate the no parking restriction that's right here, sort of from the modular buildings over the basketball court. It's sort of the typical area that the parents are queuing as they're waiting to pick up their kids. So right now it's a no parking zone and they're sort of working their self-parking there. So we wanted to sort of get in line with what's happening, and the police have been monitoring it. It seems like it would be a system that would work, that's not adding any issues for the neighborhood there. So we wrote up an amendment to sort of formalize that as well. Those are basically the 3 different proposals that we have.
Questions, comments from the board? Peter?
I think the pool parking idea is a great idea to see if we can maximize more space for commuters. I understand that since they've opened that, people have been parking there for free. So I'm just wondering how you're going to roll this out and let people know ahead of time that you're going to have to take Is it going to be a lottery or something for people who want to apply for this?
I mean, at first, I would think sort of a first come, first serve to get people in and going. As far as alerting the people now, we'll have to do some kind of signage and give them a heads up probably that what's happening right now is probably going to terminate on such a date. And I don't know if the state intentionally meant to allow it to start, but they left their construction gates down and people moved in, and then at that point they couldn't close it off while people were still in there. So we'll have to more than likely have to have somebody come at night and barricade it, whether the late shift of police or the DPW came in, but somehow we'd have to eventually just barricade it, but we'll have to give some advance notice to tell people that it's changing, so.
Yeah, I would encourage maybe SATSAC to try to get an article in the Beacon or something to give people a heads up and let them know this is being rolled out, because I'm sure a lot of people want to take advantage of it. So on the weekends, there won't be any fee for parking there for the rail trail. Obviously, there's not going to be any meters there at all.
No, currently right now, there's no plan for any fee on the parking on the weekends. It is on MBTA property, and part of the agreement with the MBTA through the rail trail is there's a revenue sharing component. So we're working with the MBTA right now, working through the logistics of what that would look like each year. So.
Okay, so, and I may have missed this. Besides the two accessible spaces on the floor for the rail trail, how many other spaces does that leave for the shared commuter?
I think under the current way it's striped, I believe it leaves about 26 additional spaces for carpool.
Okay.
And we would probably, similar to Jonesfield, we would probably maintain one of those as a swing space in the event that somebody does illegally park. The police have the ability to tell the person, instruct them to park somewhere else, so will they resolve that issue. So.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, is there going to be someone on site to check if there are two of the three applicants in the car?
Essentially, the enforcement is going to be, an officer would have to be there and see the people get them going on the train. We have the same restrictions as Jonesfield, where the enforcement is only 6 to 10 in the morning, because one issue that we were talking about was if 2 or 3 people carpooled in, but then say 2 of them stayed late for work and only one came home, they might get into a lot of back and forth with appeals of, well, we just didn't come back together. So we thought the best chance they would have of enforcing it is seeing it physically in the morning, and then other than that, they're not able to do any kind of enforcement. So.
Anything else, John?
No.
Okay. I had a similar question. I thought, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the $75, the fee is enough to maybe at least for you to cover your costs or whatever, even whether there's one person in the car or 3 or more people in the car. Not to express distrust for human nature, but people. Well, it's the free parking in the not yet initiated carpooling space. As Peter said, people probably thought they died and went to heaven. If you spend a lot of time in the city, you look around for places. Oh my gosh, there's no sign that says I can't park here, and then that's usually when you get a ticket, because somebody's keeping an eye on it, unbeknownst to you. But and then the only other comment I had is about the people queuing up to pick up their kids. I thought, okay, maybe they're kids who would normally take the bus, although maybe kids don't ride the bus. I just, this business of especially parents of public schools, the kids are at public schools and the parents are picking them up and dropping them off. I mean, that used to happen when I was young, when we missed the bus, but, we usually took the bus. But I guess parents like to keep an eye. It was, I guess, young kids. I don't know. Is that a problem everywhere? Just having a line of parents picking up and dropping off. It's a good thing we have those school buses. All right. Well, does some
question. The parking on Elm Street, are there no parking? Do you think that might impact Agawam? We've had a lot of complaints over the years about spillover parking for the school onto Agawam, particularly that corner lot of Agawam and Elm. Whether you think going to be any impact on that at all?
I think the The issue with this section of the parking is more so the pickup drop-off, which people are queuing here anyway. It's just kind of cleaning that up. We already extended the no parking zone sort of on Agawam from Elm down the street. I forget what distance, but at least a few house lots. So we've already established it as a no parking. I don't know if anyone that's parking on the sidewalk, if it's going to force them to park further in on Agawam. We'll have to keep an eye on that just to see. Sure.
The issue on the Agawam is really not, we haven't had any complaints with that. What's been posted and updated is working. It's the issue on the sidewalk in front of the school as parents are pulling up on the sidewalk, parking, entering the school for whatever event or to pick up their child, forcing children into the road on Elm Street or in the grass in the warmer weather, which is fine, and walking on the other side. But in the winter months now, it's forcing them into the road to go into Indian Village via Agawam. And there's a lot of foot traffic. The issue further down Elm Street towards the tennis courts that we've been working with Corey is in the, quote, no parking zone now, the distance between the edge of the road and the beginning of the sidewalk is plenty for a vehicle to park off the road safely and walk up for their children for whatever event at Douglas. Again, in the afternoon hours and in the morning with the buses pulling in, there is absolutely no way for the public to pull into the school and park. So there is no parking other than Agawam, further up Agawam, which eliminates any of the issues with people turning on to Agawam from Elm. We've been working with the transportation department with having the buses try and stage at that Elm Street playground towards Idlewild, staging there and then come up, and it seems to be working. Even if the bus is simply coming from Gates, from Arlington, take a left on Elm, even just going down all the way Elm Street for the matter of 1 to 2 minutes, going into the playground tennis court area, making a loop, coming back up Elm and going into the parking lot of the Douglas. Because it's just it's bottlenecking Elm Street. But more so for the pedestrians' safety. There's a lot of pedestrians in Indian Village not taking the bus, walking, and the parents will literally pull up. We've posted it in front of there temporarily, no parking, so it's enforceable, because again, to your point of it's not posted, I didn't know, other than common knowledge of you shouldn't park a car on a sidewalk. But it's not, even in the spring, Corey and I walked down there and saw the parents parking. There's plenty of room to park there. We're going to talk about a certain spot where it's by Jesse Drive where there's a crosswalk. One of our officers noticed in the current area where it wasn't posted, if an SUV is parked there, it's completely blind to pedestrians if they're using the crosswalk, it's going to be too late and cause an accident. So we're just cleaning, to go back to Corey's point of cleaning it up, making what's there, and basically taking from the Elm Street playground area and moving it further up Elm Street.
Thank you, Officer Stackhouse, for that expert opinion. And of course, when the new building gets built, maybe all those problems will be resolved, right? You'll have a special place for pickup and drop-off and absolutely no traffic obstacles or pedestrian obstacles. All right, any other questions from the audience or comments? Complaints?
Hi, I'm David Martin. I live on High Street, and I'm chair of SATSEC. I just wanted to say that SATSEC voted for all the proposed changes in the area of the train station. Our thinking in making this or trying it as a all carpool lot is the 25 spaces there might pull between 50 and 75 people out of the main lot, and was the biggest way that we could leverage the lot to help solve the parking situation. And just to respond to Joan and Janet's comments about the enforcement of 2 people getting out of the car, that's one of the reasons why we recommended the 3 strikes in your out rule. So if you get cited 3 times for either parking illegally if you don't take the space or only having 1 commuter in the car, then you'd lose your ability to get in the to park in the carpool lot. And that we presume to be part of the agreement that you signed when you got the sticker.
Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready to have a motion to approve this? Either one of you.
Do we need to take these one at a time, or can we do all three at once, do you think?
Depends if you liked all three of them, you want to just...
Okay, I'll move that we amend the traffic rules and orders by the language set forth in the memo from the engineering, from the DPW director dated January 8th, 2018.
So that's Maple Street and Stowe.
Well, I was considering all of them, including Elm Street. We can take them one at a time if you have questions or you prefer to deal with them separately.
So we have the, are you reading from the two documents or just sort of, yeah, I mean, you could just read the voted part, maybe make a motion and
Okay.
on each of the documents, just say whatever the voted part, just make that into a motion. And
Okay, I'll move, well, we'll do them separately then. So first, I'll move that the traffic rules and orders adopted by the Board of Selectmen and dated September 22nd, 2014 are hereby amended by adding the following new parking restriction to Article 7, Section 7-21, operation on private ways and parking lots, dealing with, is Brookside Shops part of this too?
It's already approved. That's
Oh,
already...
okay.
yeah.
Dealing with parking lots on Maple Street and Stowe Street.
is there a second?
Second.
Peter moves and Joan seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining.
Okay, second, I'll move that the traffic rules and orders adopted by the Board of Selectmen under date of September 22nd, 2014 are hereby amended by removing the following parking prohibition to Article 5, Section 5-6, parking location and prohibitions dealing with Elm Street parking.
Second.
Peter moves and Joan second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And
Opposed,
third,
abstaining.
then, I will move that the traffic rules and orders by the Board of Selectmen are hereby amended by removing from Article 5, Section 6, no all-night parking, the following description, and adding the following description as set forth in this memo.
Second.
Peter moves and Joan seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining.
Isn't there one more?
Actually, it's like,
No,
okay, we have
that should be it.
one, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. There are two, but we have 3 pieces of paper in here. And
That should be all of them. The Maple Street and Stowe Street lots were on one. and there was an
Elm, and, okay.
Overnight parking on a second, and Elm on the third.
Okay, well, anyhow, our intention was to approve all of them. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much,
Great,
Roy.
thank you.
And finally, we have 720, well, it's not, doesn't matter. Traffic rules and orders, proposed amendment, we already did the bike sharing program update, planning department, sorry, Kristen.
So I know most of you heard a bit of the overview at Budget Saturday, so I won't go into, the whole thing again, but I wanted to give a little bit of background in terms of kind of where we were and where we are now and status update. So I know Janet was able to attend the open house back in the spring. So since then, we've been continuing to work with Maynard on trying to get a bike share program going in Acton, and then Maynard's also been working kind of in tandem on their side. And the main goal is really to provide an alternative mode of transportation to make that last mile connection for commuters. The focus is really about commuters for this particular program, both going to and from Maynard from the South Acton Commuter Rail Station, but also to provide another option for people that are in West Acton Village. We did a survey that showed there's a lot of movement actually going from Maynard to West Acton Village, and also from the train station to West Acton Village. So we thought it would be good to start with 2 locations, start small and then expand if it's successful. I think I had mentioned on Saturday that the hope is to really get a hub in Kelly's Corner, because that was also the kind of the third runner-up, and with any potential development that would occur there alongside the Complete Streets project that the town's working on, it could be very beneficial for the residents. So since the spring, we worked hard on getting sponsors, and we do have 2 sponsors solidified. So that would cover half the cost of the program for the 2 years. And we are still working on trying to close the gap even further. So right now we have $18,000 of the $36,000 total cost covered. Again, in addition, there are ridership fees that are returned to the town, which on average tend to cover 25% of the overall cost of the program. That's not a guarantee, so it could be, anywhere from $18,000 the town would have to front, or $9,000. But again, we are working with another potential sponsor, so our fingers are crossed that they're going to come through. So since about a month ago, we've met with Corey York and Tom Tidman to take a look at those locations, both at the South Acton Commuter Rail on the south side, and with Tom Tidman at the Gardner Playground, and right in front of the Gardner Playground area. And we had a follow-up meeting with David Hahn, who was kindly met me outside on a very, very cold day to kind of take a look and see what his thoughts were, because it is in a historic district. And he, provided some insight. So we'll be meeting with the Historic District Commission on January 20th or 23rd, I believe. And we'd like to plan an additional follow-up meeting with SADSAC and TAC, and potentially other stakeholders that may be interested, or avid bikers, people that may be interested in using the program. So we are also working with the MBTA and trying to figure out what they will require of us, whether it be a license and any other fees that they may require. If there are additional fees, we may look to actually locate the station on the portion of the Cowett land that is not restricted, so the portion close to the entrance of the rail trail. So it's kind of where we're at now, but I didn't know if I wanted to provide another opportunity to kind of get some feedback before we met with other committees, and are there any other comments?
Questions, comments from the board? Joan or Peter?
If you take the bike from Maynard to the South Acton train station, will there be a bike there for you when you come back?
So the program that we're proposing, that we've kind of worked with, Zagster is the company that we're planning to work with. They have taken a look at what our survey said, and they also basically proposed a feasibility study for the town of Acton and Maynard. And what they proposed as being sufficient is having 5 bikes at the South Acton Commuter Rail Station, 5 bikes in West Acton Village, 5 bikes in downtown Maynard, and then 5 bikes at the Mill and Main. And within those stations, there are also empty spaces to allow for the movement of bikes. So it's an on-demand system, so it's when you get to the bike, you log in and you get your bike. They don't think at this point that more are needed in order to fulfill the need for people moving, but they monitor it very frequently, so that we would know if the need is spiking and more bikes are needed. So that's something that they keep a close eye on in terms of the data.
Peter, any questions?
No, I think it's a great idea. I support it. I've used these bikes down in New York City, and my understanding of everything I'm reading about is they're hugely popular everywhere, including Boston and Cambridge and other places. So I think it's a great initiative. They're going to be using local bike mechanics to maintain these bikes? Is that?
That's what we have requested, so it's
Okay.
up to them on who they hire, but we have, we did reach out to Pedal Power.
Okay.
Invited them to the open house as well. I
Okay.
don't know if they're interested at this point in partaking in the program, but there's also another bike shop in downtown Maynard.
Race,
So-
yeah.
Yes,
It's been there
yeah.
forever, yeah.
So the person we've been working with at Zagstar is aware of those two bike shops, and that we
Okay.
want them to reach out to them, because we'd rather
Yeah.
keep the business local if we can.
Okay.
But the town of Concord, Lexington, and Marlborough are they either up and running or will be live this spring. So they may want to use contractors that they already have with those surrounding communities.
Okay, so in front of Gardner Playground, is that, I mean, it can't be on the sidewalk, it can't be in the street, it would take up a parking space, so what does it be, right in the playground itself? or-
There's a grass strip between the sidewalk and a wooden guardrail
Okay,
right in front of Gardner Playground, and the measurements for the facility would fit right there.
Okay.
It is partially what we've been able to find out from looking at the plans, is that it's partially on the playground parcel and partially within the right-of-way. So that would require the Board of Selectmen's approval to have that in the right-of-way. And once we have the actual lines narrowed down, if it's on Gardner Playground property, we would want to make sure we touch base with the Recreation Commission as well.
okay.
So,
So I think this is a capital item on the, is this in the capital? Okay, so I'm assuming, assuming town meeting passes this, would you be ready to move right after town meeting?
well, the funds would be available July 1st.
July 1st,
yeah.
okay, yeah, great.
So, I mean, we have discussed with Zagstar kind of a different payment option so that we could go live still, and pay them with the sponsorship fees that we have, and then have some type of agreement where we could pay them, the rest in July 1st. But we basically, if they know that town meeting appropriated it, then they would have certainty, so. But that's
Okay.
not a
All
done
right.
deal.
Great. I think I have seen an article already in the Beacon on this, so that's great. If people are, anything we can do to make people aware of this, that'd be great, so.
Just a question, Kristen, about the repairs. Is the idea, I don't know if these things talk to the central computers about, if something's not working right, they say, well, my tire's flat or something like that, or if the people who are hired, assuming they're local or in the area, are supposed to repair things, or are they supposed to go by regularly every day to sort of monitor the bikes to make sure that they haven't been wrecked in the past day? Because
Yeah.
I just think that if somebody showed up at a bike rack and there was one bike left and it turned out to be left because it was in disrepair, that would not be good, unless it happened to be during the 10 minutes before the person who was supposed to repair it supposed to, go by and pick up the bike. I don't know, is the idea that they're supposed to be checking these things every day, just the condition of the bicycles?
So individuals, if let's say they're riding and they get a flat tire or something malfunctions, they're supposed to basically go on their phone. It's a mobile app, so they go on their phone and say there's an issue. If they can't continue riding it to the next station, they can just lock the bike up on a tree or wherever it is, and it will be GPS located. They can figure out where it is. If in terms of them checking the bikes routinely, that's part of the contract. So we've been working with them back and forth, and we've reviewed it with town council to make sure that there are, regular maintenance checks, and as well as making sure that if after 3 years, basically all of the bikes would be renewed. So we would end up getting new ones after that time period. But there would be a regular checking period, even if something's not identified as wrong.
Yeah, I think it was good also that you clarified during Budget Saturday that the reason we were going with that Zaxter is because of the other communities in the area, that, including Maynard now, that are using Zaxter. So it allows, at some point, it allows more leeway if you want to bike that far, if you want to bike to Lexington or something like that. You'll have a little more exchange. And the only other thing is Dave Hahn is a serious bicyclist.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that once you get the HDC's approval, that he will help to move that along, have the proper design for whatever.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, no, but anyhow, but thank you. Any other comments from the audience, questions or comments from the board? No, you don't have to talk.
I'm just,
You're representing the audience.
I'm very supportive. My wife takes Hubway bikes in town every day, between Porter Square and Kendall Square, so except when there's ice on the ground. But so she didn't today, but she will tomorrow, even because it'll be slightly above freezing. And they work very well for her, and so they've, the only thing that occasionally happens is they run out of bikes, and in the case of Hubways, that we'll move them. But there's a greater density in town, right? They'll pick them up from an overcrowded dropout point and move them to an empty dropout point.
Great.
But anyway, I'm very supportive.
Great.
I'm glad you mentioned the movement, because that's something else that we have in the contract too. It's not going to be, every day they look to move it. This is something that we clarified with them. It's something that once they get the data, they'll take a look at where the need is, and then they'll adjust. And so it's going to take a little bit of time to get it right, he said, in terms of like the first month or two, to understand where they should be at any given time. But it's not going to be a day-to-day piece, so just so that everybody is aware.
That's great.
Thank you.
Great to have the testimonial, thanks. All right, I guess you don't need, we approve. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great, as Peter said, to get people out and moving. And these bikes they're easier to ride. They're old-fashioned. They look comfortable. I know. I learned when I went to Maynard for that open house, I did learn that the seat was adjustable, pretty easily adjustable too, which is crucial. If somebody Peter's height has been riding the bike and I get on it, I won't have my legs dangling and have to pray that the pedals move on their own, under their own power. So anyhow, but thank you very much, Kristen. All right, I think we're done, right?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, Peter moves and Joan second. I hope there's no more discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Thank you. Good night.